Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a run through of my Whitesnake CD collection. So the band formed in 1978 and has put out 13 studio albums, but I myself have over 50 CDs in my collection. Box sets, regular CDs, some promo items, Japanese imports, all kinds of different things in here, and I'm going to run through with you guys, maybe turn you on to something new that you can go search out if you're a Whitesnake fan, but all in all, just give you a big overview of the band and all that they have put out. We'll do that in just a bit, but before we start, if you're new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this with a run through of my Whitesnake CD collection. So we're going to dive into it here at the point of Whitesnake inception, which is actually two solo albums from David Coverdale after he left Deep Purple. And the reason I'm going to do these is not only for the reason that they're really the start of this, but also later David Coverdale is reissuing these as now Whitesnake albums. So first one up is the one that is titled Whitesnake. And these have been hard to come by for quite some time until they got reissued this way on the Spitfire label, and the follow-up after that, North Winds, where he really kind of settled on the band that would become Whitesnake, which is, he takes the name from this. This is where the band lineup gets solidified going forward. So really, in my opinion, I've always considered these Whitesnake albums, which David Coverdale is now doing the same thing. And so then they release Snakebite, an EP. This here has been fleshed out a little bit more to essentially make it an album with 8 tracks on it, but I believe the original release just had 5 on it. I've always kept it in with the regular album. So this was actually the first thing Whitesnake would put out. But their album proper was Trouble. And this one in particular has the Snakebite EP, and I can see now that it's just 4 tracks that were on the original EP that came out, this being one of the remastered versions. And I have gone through numerous repeat purchases, having the original ones that Geffen reissued at the time, once they became so popular, and then going back when he did the real reissues remaster series, which, by the way, all of these that have been remastered sound really good. All right, I then have this Live at Hammersmith live album that was recorded on the Trouble tour. And so this has 6 tracks on it. It is a Japanese only release. I've not seen it gathered up in other ways, but maybe it was part of like Box of Snakes or something like that. But I just try to get my hands on pretty much anything I can from my favorite artists, including Japanese releases that didn't make their way out to the States. Next up is one of my favorite albums, Love Hunter. This one here in particular because it's got the song Walking in the Shadow of the Blues on it, which is absolutely fantastic. So this one being another remastered edition one with bonus tracks on it. And I like that album enough that I actually found this bootleg, which is the Lost Reel Masters of it. Apparently there was a different mix of the album. Those got lost or misplaced or whatever, and they ended up doing a different mix on it, but this is what that was. And so I wanted to get a copy of this to just hear that original straight mix. So I do have that, but like I said, that is it's a bootleg of an official thing. It's a studio thing, but of course not officially released by the band. I do always have a few bootlegs in my collections when they're really unique and rare stuff like that. Then we have Live in the Heart of the City. This one here picking up live stuff from the first 2 albums. Officially, you can see that's a Geffen Records release. When they got so popular, they started putting out all of the UK albums, because in the US, they didn't start putting out Whitesnake releases until Slide It In, and then they got so popular on Slide It In, the 1987 album, and Slip of the Tongue, that they went back and did the whole catalog at that point. Next up, Ready and Willing, again, one of the remastered editions with bonus tracks. followed by a great album, Come and Get It. That's got a little controversy behind the snake's mouth, the way the tongue looks like a lady's vagina in there. So there's always been a little bit of controversy on that album cover, and I think edited at different times. Then we have Saints and Sinners, this album being the one that has Here I Go Again, and I believe it's Crying in the Rain is also on this. Yeah, so both of those tracks from the 1987 album, their original format here on this release. And then I've got a Japanese best of, simply called Whitesnake Best, that actually gathers up those early bluesier albums. So when I'm in more of a mood for that, I like having a release like this that just covers that era, because they are very distinct sounding and certainly member-wise different between the pre-Slide It In and the post-Slide It In. And now, having mentioned that, Slide It In. And this one here being the original Geffen Records release of this, I also have one of the remastered editions, and I've got several versions actually of this. This one here being the latest version, and it's got a different track listing. It's got the UK track listing. I believe that's the UK listing of it, but it's got the US mix of the album the way this does. Although I've got the box set of this, which has both the US and UK mixes. And remember, the US mix has John Sykes playing guitar, whereas the UK mix does not. So that's where we got that distinct, different, lively guitar sound. And so these box sets have been fantastic for getting us those kind of things. And this is a 7-disc, 6 CD, 7th one is a DVD, but having all kinds of remastered remixes, different types of monitor mixes, live stuff, early rough mixes, original demos. So those kind of things appearing in the boxes, which is great. Now, this came out after the time period, but it's recorded during the '84 era. So this live album here, which is Back to the Bone, having all kinds of cool stuff gathered up. So we get Super Rock Japan in '84. There is a DVD included in this as well. We get Snakeskin Boots, which they call Best of the Bootlegs in here. And we also get some of John Lord's final performances with Whitesnake before he returned to Deep Purple when they did their reunion for Perfect Strangers. Next on, the 1987 album, again, original Geffen Records, released here in the US, but I also have the remastered version of this, it too having a different sequence track listing. So I enjoy getting, not only because it's remastered, but it lets me hear it a different way. And again, I think this is the original UK version, because they also add in two of the songs that weren't part of this. You're Gonna Break My Heart Again, and I'm not sure which was the other one, but that of course would become a bonus track on the greatest hits, which we're getting to in a little bit. Now, at that same time, they released 87 versions, a Japanese release. Might call this an EP, but I think it's about 45 minutes long. It's got 5 tracks on it, and it's got new versions of Here I Go Again. It's got a remix of Standing in the Shadows, Looking for Love. That was one of the unreleased songs, and You're Gonna Break My Heart Again, both of those. And those would be the ones that would turn up on the US Greatest Hits. And then Need Your Love So Bad, another remix. But that new version of Here I Go Again on here had new guitar playing by Vivian Campbell, which is why when he joined the band, David Coverdale wanted to get some of his stuff recorded, so they did a new version of it and released that as a single. So it's always cool to get a hold of those, and that stuff also appearing in here. But again, I wanted to get the original Japanese with the separate album art and everything, but we get the box set version of this, and much like the Slide It In, it has remixes and different alternate mixes, live demo. I think there's a DVD in this as well. Always very cool packagings that Whitesnake does. Never very much, around the $50 to $60 mark for these box sets that they do. All right, moving on. The next one in the trilogy of albums from the Geffen Records era in the US, Slip of the Tongue, and again, original Geffen Records release, but I do have the remastered version, this one being a 2 CD set, because at the time I wasn't considering to buy the box set for this. I didn't think there was enough stuff on the box set that really interested me, so I bought this for that different alternate sequence and remastered sound and everything, and later on decided I do in fact need the box set. I needed it to complete the collection, because as you're going to see, I've got 4 more of these things that the band has done, and I just didn't feel right not having it in there. But it was also one of those things that I started to keep an eye on it, and I think I found it for brand new on Amazon for $24. So it was one of those things that was like, even if I don't like all the content that's in it, it would totally be worth having. And then I got it, and it was way better than I had expected it to be in the first place. And it's one of the things that has totally made it so that I now decide just to buy these no matter what, because when I sample them through streaming, it doesn't always hit me the way that it does when you have this stuff in front of you. Makes a big difference. All right, again, this was released later on, but it's from this era, so it's the Live in Donington 1990, Steve Vai playing on Slip of the Tongue. Having a live concert with him in the performance was kind of a big deal to me. I've always been a big Steve Vai fan, so getting this plus the DVD, so not only double live CD, but DVD in that performance. This stuff is archival. It's not as crystal clear and perfect as you would these later officially recorded and released ones, but yet they're great to have as an archival piece. All right, so now that greatest hits that I was talking about does come out. It's the Geffen Records release here in the US, so it only focuses on Slide It In, the 87 album, and Slip of the Tongue, but it did add in 3 unreleased songs, 2 of those being the ones that I mentioned to you on here. It's also got some different radio edit versions of like Here I Go Again, and ones that we grew up hearing here. If you knew the band from MTV and the radio, then these were those versions that you were hearing. So very cool to get. And again, I love having one that focuses on the early blues rock era, one that focuses on the big glam metal heyday era of the band. And I'll show you some collections from later on that go even bigger and broader than that. So part of the remix, remastered, revisited collections is this here. He did the greatest hits that way, where he went in and enhanced, added some additional guitar parts and keyboards and other things, but really cranked this out to sound very big and bombastic the way that he wants it to. So, you know, I've got the original stuff, and then I've got these cool new mixed versions of it that he put out. All right, so initially he breaks up Whitesnake. He goes off, does Coverdale Page. I have that album too. I'm not showing it because it's not really related to Whitesnake like those first 2 solo albums. But he comes back, reforms the band, and he does it with Adrian Vandenberg, who is really part of the Slip of the Tongue album. Although he doesn't play on it, Steve Vai plays all the parts. But in order to finally be able to record with Adrian Vandenberg, they make this album, Restless Heart. And this comes out, I want to say it's 97. So I have a Japanese edition of it. That's why it's in the slipcase like this. It had 3 bonus tracks on it at the time. And I always really liked the album. It was a bit of a mellow album by comparison to the bombastic stuff of the 80s and 1990 era of the band. But it was still very good stuff, and just great to have the band back when a lot of these late 80s, early 90s bands were gone and disappeared at that time because of the whole grunge movement that had happened and everything. So getting it back, I really enjoyed that album. I listened to it a lot. Years later, of course, they would do the 25th anniversary edition and remix the album and enhance it, that sort of stuff, just like they did with the greatest hits. So we got that now here, adding in a bunch of other tracks and really fleshing it out, including those bonus tracks, so that it was now a full-fledged, you know, kick-ass Whitesnake album. I have that standalone one, but they did the box set of it, and of course I have the box set as well, which has the original Remastered, then we've got the remix, we've got Dancing on the Titanic. These are early arrangements. We've got Evolutions on here showing the development of the song. We've also got a DVD of music videos in here, as well as some other cool memorabilia and stuff. Now, as part of, actually, it's not part of this, I do not believe, which is good, actually, but I'm trying to remember where this pops up. I think this is maybe in the Unzipped box, which I did choose not to get, although I take it back. I have it. All right, so I didn't buy the Unzipped box at first because of this, because it included Starkers in Tokyo, an acoustic show of just David Coverdale, Adrian Vandenberg doing material from the new album, Restless Heart. And it duplicates a lot of other stuff, but I think I found that one real cheap, and I'll show it in a little bit. So that's what this is. This is a Japanese release on EMI of a show that was done during the Restless Heart era. Now, after that, David Coverdale again breaks up Whitesnake and goes and makes an official solo album, because Restless Heart apparently was supposed to be a solo album, but then it was decided to be Whitesnake again. So then he goes out and he does Into the Light, which now this has been turned into a Whitesnake album. I'll show you that when we get to that box set, because that one does not have a standalone release. All of the albums are in the box set. So I mentioned having a couple other cool best-ofs in here that go beyond the split of the early blues rock era and the glam metal heyday era. This is one of them. This mixes both eras, and I really enjoy having this in order to hear the variety. And then when you think like they're going to have Fool for Your Lovin', the glam metal version of it, they don't. They put the original one on here. So it kind of throws you a little bit, but I liked that about this. And it is a single disc. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the best collection that Whitesnake has available if you want to know all of their eras of the group. And we've got then this, the Silver Collection, so 25th anniversary, and it covers not only those first two solo albums and then the solo album Into the Light, plus Coverdale Page and both Whitesnake eras. So it is a 2 CD set, but if you kind of want a best of David Coverdale and all of the eras, check this out. They don't have anything from Deep Purple, although I'm wondering if there is a live version of Burn on here or something, but I don't think so. I don't think I have seen that as part of that. Okay, so once again, David Coverdale puts Whitesnake back together and puts out Live in the Shadow of the Blues, 2 CD set. Now, again, I'm not a huge live album fan, but I bought this not only because it was Whitesnake coming back and it had Reb Beach as one of the guitar players from Winger, which I absolutely love Winger and Reb Beach. And so I was glad to see him getting the due that he deserves as part of Whitesnake. He's now been one of Whitesnake's longest running members, because the right-hand man of David Coverdale, who went through having Doug Aldridge, and there's Joel Hoekstra, has really become Reb Beach in there, and kind of band coordinator and arranger and all of that sort of stuff that he's become, being there for so long now. So I've always been very happy about that. But this live album has 4 new studio songs on it, Ready to Rock, If You Want Me, All I Want Is You, and Dog. And so those would be on here, and he would release this 10 Good to Be Bad album, which was fantastic. First new album of Whitesnake material since Restless Heart, been a long time. And we got Doug Aldridge in this lineup along with Reb Beach. Can't remember if Tommy Aldridge is the one drumming on this, but very good lineup of this here. So later on, he puts out Still Good to Be Bad, and then they work in the 4 songs that are from this, because I guess they were really part of that era, so they've now been included. And what was 11 songs here is now 15 songs on the Still Good to Be Bad. And you get the remaster, and then you get a remix, that enhanced version where they do embellishing and other great stuff to it. So you get all of that. And there was a box set version of this as well that I picked up. And these box sets just have so much more great stuff. And he's now been doing these evolutions. It started in on the 87 box set, and he found out that people loved it so much, he's been doing it on all the box sets going forward. But you get the remix, the remastered, alternative remixes and versions, then you get evolutions, you get a Blu-ray in here. So these box sets have just been absolutely dreamy. We've got another one of these coming up here real soon as well for Forevermore, which we're getting to right now. It has not come out yet, but Forevermore, the album, which has been out for a while, and it was the last one with Doug Aldridge, and this one here being one of the deluxe editions at the time that had 3 bonus cuts on it, some alternate and acoustic versions of tracks. So this comes out, and you know, we get to enjoy that. But like I said, now on the horizon, we are going to get a box set version of this. So I'm super excited about that. I'll just be adding it in as one more box set to the collection. Now, again, these were released later on, but are of this era, so I want to show them to you. Made in Japan, 2 CD DVD collection with the Doug Aldridge, recorded on the Forevermore tour. So that one, but there's also, and I have never opened this one, called Made in Britain, and it's the same thing. It's actually 2 things, Made in Britain and World Record. And both of these have turned up in another live album box set that they just recently did, which I chose not to get because I owned literally everything that was in the live albums box set that they just did. Okay, now I'm putting this in the 2011 slot because it's when it came out, but it's obvious it's got content from 79 and 80. It's the Box of Snakes, but this here is sort of a bootleg of it, a well done one where it just pulled out of it the unreleased stuff that you couldn't get. If you already owned all the albums, there was this. And this was a promo thing that was sent around to radio stations, and a bootleg company got a hold of it and basically made that. So it's got the Live at Reading 79 and Live at Reading Rock in 1980. And then it's got a DVD in here of all the music videos, TV performances, and some live extra stuff. It was basically all the stuff that was bonus content that you couldn't get if you had already bought the discs or didn't want to buy the box set. And so I chose to pick it up. It sounds as great as the promo stuff. It was just, like I said, put together by or copied really by a bootleg company. Okay, then Deep Purple takes a little sidestep and goes and makes the Purple album, revisiting all of his Deep Purple stuff that he did over 3 albums, David Coverdale, I mean. And interesting because, you know, Whitesnake had always done some re-recordings of the earlier blues stuff. Later on, Here I Go Again, Fool for Your Lovin', stuff like that. So why not go and re-record some Deep Purple and do the same thing to it? Although this, I don't think, was nearly as successful as the way that they had done with the re-records that they did in the 80s, rocking those up to what was popular at the time. This kind of overdid it, in my opinion. They're a little over-embellished, so to speak, in their thing, or a little overextended in their jam or something. I don't know. It's good for what it is, but I already knew the Deep Purple stuff through and through, and there just really wasn't enough difference to this to make me to want to listen to this over the other stuff. And then they go and do a remix version of this. Now, this did not get a box set. It only came out this way. A 3-disc version of it where he enhances, remixes, embellishes, and then adds in some cool stuff like the original demo tape that was used to get him a tryout for Deep Purple. That's included in here. This kind of done as an anniversary to when he joined Deep Purple. I think this was put out in 2023, so 73, 50 years celebration of his time in Deep Purple. It was kind of a cool way to do it. There was also a Purple live album. This I found to be more successful than the studio version of it. And now we get on to the Unzipped. And so I initially just bought the single disc because of the extra stuff that was in there. I didn't feel I needed it. And I found that like Target or somebody was selling a standalone jewel case edition. And so I got everything that I wanted this way. These are unplugged versions of Whitesnake songs. But there's only 9 of them on here. I don't really know why it wasn't done. It was just a collected together version of stuff. And then later on, I decided to go ahead and get the box set again to complete the wall. Because there was some stuff that was in here, but it has that snakeskin boot Starkers in Tokyo, or Starkers in Europe, so acoustic tour. Then it's got Starkers in Tokyo, the album that I did show you. But it has more Starkers, so it's got more acoustic versions of stuff in here, and then up close and personal, previously unreleased acoustic demo ideas. And for those 2 discs there, it did turn out to be worthwhile. So like the Slip of the Tongue album, I decided to track this down, find it for inexpensive, and go ahead and get it and add it to the collection. And it was one of those times where I was deep into a Whitesnake mood and I just needed some more stuff to be listening to. And because I didn't spend, I think, more than about $25 on those, it was totally worth it to me. All right, the band then releases Flesh and Blood, and at this point, their 13th studio album, final album to date, probably will be their last album, although there's been rumors that David wants to put one more album out, but that's been going on about 5 years at this point since the pandemic. Very good album. Again, a deluxe edition with DVD, 2 bonus tracks on this one. If that is in fact their final album, I think it's very good. And then during the pandemic, which is really where he started doing these remix albums, and he started it with the Red, White, and Blues project, although I can't remember in exactly what order these came out. I want to say it was the Blues album first. So he just started taking the songs and enhancing, embellishing, and remixing them and creating collections. These are the more bluesy songs. And then there's one, the Red album, which is love songs, so a lot of the different ballads and things and stuff. And then we get the Rock album or the White album. So you get the Red, White, and Blues trilogy. But this was a very cool thing and, interesting to do during the pandemic and getting these things out and talking about all these great box sets that were going to be forthcoming that we've started to get. And the last one that I picked up was the Into the Light. And so this one here is turning those solo albums, those 3 solo albums, into Whitesnake albums, having current Whitesnake band come in and enhance, embellish the albums, then give them the remix treatment, putting that fresh coat of paint on it. So you get the Into the Light remix, but you also get additional remixes and demos from that period, Unfinished Symphonies, which is, demos and things. You get Northwind's remix. You get the Whitesnake self-titled, well, it's not really, he's calling it a self-titled album now because it was David Coverdale Whitesnake, but now it's got the 2024 remix, and you get demos for both of those. But then at the end of this, you also get the original mixes remastered. So you get the original albums plus those remixes and all the bonus content on it in a box set like this. And he says going forward, forevermore, those 3 solo albums will now be considered Whitesnake albums. So David Coverdale's really taken the reins on the Whitesnake storyline and catalog and turned it into what he wants it to be. He said he's not waiting until after he passes and lets somebody else do this. He's going to do it himself, and I think he's done a miraculous job with it. We still have all the classic original versions of these things, but we now have these new enhanced versions of albums and remixed ones, of which I think sound fantastic. Do they replace the originals? No, probably not, but it's just a great way to hear them. And so that right there was 51 different things that I ran through for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you saw something in there, a little special that you want to track down, or didn't even know that they had this many albums out there that you could go track down. Because I think there's only 2 things in there that were bootleg, leaving you 49 different things you could go out and get. But all in all, hopefully you enjoyed this. What's your favorite Whitesnake album or Whitesnake thing that you have maybe that's a little unique, weigh in, let me know. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.